Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's that time of the week where we get to take a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. Alright, first thing today is something everybody seems to have been waiting for. The Gerber DoubleDowns are here. These actually debuted at SHOT Show in 2020, and they've only finally started making it out. But very interesting concept going on here. So coming in about $130, this is US made, and it kind of takes some cues from a Balisong, but you're not going to be able to flip it. As you can see, it kind of has a stop along the position here, and that happens both when you open and close it. So you got to hit those the 4 lock releases whenever you hit that to fold the guy open. So in that case, you've got pretty much a kind of the stereotypical 12-inch machete, only with less actual blade and foldable, of course, but kind of that similar size. Maybe a little closer to a 10-inch machete. I didn't actually measure ahead of the grip here. It looks like about a foot. Wouldn't you say so, Thomas?
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, I've said it many times, the 12-inch machete is probably one of the most versatile survival tools on the planet, and what they wanted to do with this was just to make it easier to carry. You could throw it in a pack. See, it closes right there. Throw it in a pack. You don't need a sheath or anything like that. Not super lightweight, but again, you wouldn't expect it to. It's about 18 ounces. And yeah, pretty interesting concept. I like that it's made in the USA. I like that compactability, of course. And the handle comfort back here is not bad, actually. It feels pretty decent. It will lock into position with the bail here on the end, or the latch here on the end. Choking up on it feels a little less comfortable. It's pretty blocky up there. Could be done in a pinch, but I wouldn't want it to be my primary thing. 420HC steel here with a stone washed finish. They use that stuff all over the place. They've got the heat treat pretty dialed in on their US made products with it. And then you got some jimping out here near the front, and they say that's to catch your baton if you're going to be splitting wood with this. May or may not be necessary, but it does provide you with another point of traction for your index finger if you're needing to use out near the tip a little bit. So yeah, they are in stock now. $130 for these, or you can get an all blacked out one for about $140. And then black handles with the stone washed finish is also available. All right, next up is some pretty exciting news too. If you've been a fan of Spartan blades, but you've never really been able to afford any of their designs too much, especially their folders, the time is now. We've actually got 2 folders that, unfortunately, they're not US made like everything else in Spartan's lineup. These are imported, but we've got 2 folders here coming in at a much lower price point than their designs used to be. This, of course, is a Les George design, if you couldn't tell by the shape. It kind of has some of his signature flair, signature lines to it. This is the ASTOR, and it comes in at $145 right now. Blade steel is CTS XHP, a bit over 3.5 inches of it. Really nice drop point shape, plenty of belly here, good geometry, nice high flat grind with about average blade thickness. Really good to go. The handles are carbon fiber on top of black G10 with a single liner, in this case with a liner lock. They didn't want to kind of double up on the weight on there because the G10 in this case is going to be plenty durable enough for what they're looking to do. Plenty of length on the hand grip, feels nice, orients the blade pretty nicely as well. I do really like that blade shape, especially with this thumb ramp coming up right there. I dig that. Now this knife also has a deep carry pocket clip. Very nearly disappears the knife into your pocket, and that is reversible as well. You get that blockout plate there. And I'm going to read this because I'd get it wrong otherwise. All Spartan Blades field grade folders have their oil-infused bronze bushing system, also known as OIBBS. That's what it says.
Okay.
OIBBS. So it's essentially, you know, they call them sintered bronze bushings that are impregnated with oil. So you have even smoother reaction or smoother motion as you open and close them. It definitely has that kind of bushing or that washer feel as opposed to ball bearings. Kind of has that smooth, not as fast, but very smooth and deliberate action, and it feels very solid. We also have, and I think I like this one a little bit more even, is the TALOS. This is kind of a scaled down and more budget-friendly version of the Spartan Harsey folder. This is the Bill Harsey. This guy comes in about 115. Story's pretty much pretty similar. XHP steel again, just over 3 inches in this case, and just G10 for the handles, and an inset liner lock in this case on the one side. It has a little bit of a cleaner look. You've still got the in here, and you've got a single position deep carry pocket clip. Feels really nice in the hand, be a nice compact carry. It still gives you a decent amount of blade to work with. And one of the things that Harsey does a lot on his fixed blades especially, but you see it here as well, is it's very subtle, but the edge here is essentially all belly. It has maybe just the barest hint of straight edge from about here to maybe about here. Maybe about here. And then it just curls up after that. And I've actually talked to Mr. Harsey about that before, and he and I share kind of our similar beliefs in that kind of edge. As you move through a cut, it likes to follow with you and has some really nice slicing capabilities going on. Really, really cool little knife, and you get that SHF vibe at a much nicer price than it used to be able to get it. Very cool. Another cool thing about these folders, if you don't like these colors, you can get some, I think some green G10 as well on these guys. But yeah, definitely check those out. Definitely worth a look. And we've also got a new imported version of their Enyo neck knife, coming in about 88 bucks right now. It's AUS 8 in this case. This is made in Taiwan. Still has that nice thick blade stock that the original was kind of known for. You get a lot of durability there. Not so much a slicing profile here. It's more of a stout flat grind in this case, but a really good piercing tip on this as well. And it's even got that nice Spartan bead there on the back, and that is a plated pewter Spartan helmet. It's not like plastic or anything like that. So at least they didn't skimp out too much on that spot. And the sheath on this guy, if you've seen any of the K-bar made professional grade knives from Spartan, you'll recognize this tab on the sheath there. It kind of clicks in very nicely, and to get it out, it's not going to budge until you push with your thumb up on that switch, then you can take that guy out. Really nicely done. Hole pattern should work with your standard bevy of tech locks, and it actually comes with a horizontal strap, so you can wrap this around. Take the plastic off first probably, but you can carry that horizontally with that, no problem. Next up, we've got another beefy little fixed blade. This one beefier still. This is the Boker Little Dvalin, about 38 bucks. You can get it in Tonto or drop point profiles right now. We've got D2 steel. Its thickness is fairly thick, close to a quarter inch in this case, and a bit over 3 inches of blade sticking out in front of those G10 handles. The handles feel a little bit kind of in between G10 and Micarta actually, and that's probably due to the level of refinement they've given the sanding job on this. It has a little bit more kind of texture or tack than a higher polished G10 would. Similar in ways to kind of a canvas micarta or a matte finish canvas micarta. So you've got a good amount of grip on this for sure. Gives me about a 3-finger grip, but plenty of girth to grab onto with that particular shape right there. Definitely a lot of strength in this guy for those tactical or EDC uses if you need or if you appreciate a beefier small fixed blade for your EDC. The sheath itself is Kydex, and you've got a hole pattern here that's spaced that'll fit your standard full-size tech lock, no problem. It also does come with its own belt attachment that is modular. You can carry it vertical or horizontal. It has a bit of a J-hook on the end of that rather than the typical tech lock style, but either one will of course work very well. All right, next up we've got a new Kershaw, and this is a new rescue knife from them. This is called the Drivetrain. And as far as a budget rescue knife, I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. Features are well thought out. You've got, of course, the blade. You've got, in addition to that, a glass breaker on the end and a seat belt or fabric cutter there on the back. And I'll get to more of that later. But all this comes in at just 50 bucks right now. Now this is a SpeedSafe assisted opening knife, so you've got that assisted opening action, and especially when you're on the front lines, you don't have time to guess if your knife has deployed properly. You just get that going, and the spring is going to ensure that it's ready to go exactly when you need it. The choice of steel here I also think was very good. It's D2, which of course you're going to get a real good amount of edge retention. Not completely stainless, so that's working against it a little bit for this type of usage, but D2 can take a toothy edge or can produce a toothy edge pretty nicely, which on any kind of knife that might be having to cut fabric or cut through things like that, that could actually come in handier than a real highly refined edge. So again, real nice choice of materials here. We've got a stone washed finish that looks good, nice working finish. Blade stock is decently thin, appropriately thin, and you've got a high flat grind. It's going to be a decent slicer as well. Good edge profile too. As far as the back side of the knife, you have a liner lock. I'll close that up real quick. Single position pocket clip. That's because they couldn't find a way to make it fit on the front side while also still having this pop out seatbelt cutter there on the back. And what's nice about this too is kind of economy of motion. You don't have to rotate something fully open in order to have something at the ready as quick as possible. Just rotates a few degrees and locks into place here with that secondary liner lock on the back. And you got a nice sharp hook edge there, but the point is nice and blunt so you can get in under things without puncturing them, whether it's a seat belt or going through clothing. And it's gonna work very naturally because you're gonna come right up, kind of rest the back of the knife on what you're trying to get under, and it's going to guide that right into the cutting hook of the blade itself. Really nicely designed. Again, this is a $50 rescue knife, and I see a lot there that's very easy to recommend. All right, next up we have the Boker Kaizen, which is very, very clearly aimed at the CRKT CEO, and this is a bit more of a premium take on that same concept, coming in about 60 bucks right now. And the materials you find on this are going to be a little bit higher end than that CEO. First off, you've got a D2 blade, just a hair over 3 inches. The grind is nice and precise. We've got a nice, good thin edge, good thin blade stock. This is going to be a very, very capable slicing knife. And it's going to be pretty agile too as you move through things, thanks to that low height and that swedge as well. The handles here are G10. It's got kind of a fish scale pattern machined into both sides. And as you can see from the tail there, a nice bit of contouring to it as well. We've got a folded over pocket clip that's right side only, but it is tip up. You've also got this metal back spacer here right on the end, more like an end spacer, I guess. But it does that same kind of pill crusher vibe that like doctor's knives like to have, that sort of thing. And it incorporates this really wide lanyard hole as well if you wanted to do some customization. And where this knife really strikes into its own is around the pivot. Definitely a distinctive look, and as you can see when I closed it up here, this isn't a thumb stud opening knife, this is a flipper, but you don't have a big flipper tab sticking out. Everything nestles in very, very nicely, and you've got just a little bit of wheel, essentially jimped wheel there on the back. That's your flipper tab. And I'm always a little nervous when I see something with a very subtle flipper tab like that. How well is it gonna work? The short answer is it works very well. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Spyderco Ikuchi, the way it has that kind of wheel going on, but it's even more subtle in this case. But it is very easy to flip. You've got ball bearings in the pivot and the action is spot on. All right, next up we've got 2 new variants of the Hoback Goliath. This is a pocket fixed blade. You may have seen this in the pocket fixed blades video we just did earlier this week. But we've got both for about $185. You've got the black and white tuxedo at the top, and a jade G10 and black on the bottom here. Both of them G10, but you've got your tuxedo and your jade in this case. But each of them are really cool. We've got a 20 CV blade, about 3.5 inches of it. Not super thin. This is not a super slicey knife, but at least the edge itself is very, very thin. So it's going to get out of its way as much as it can when you are going to cut. And you lose a little bit of length on the handle to go with a longer blade in a still pocketable package, but it's still enough to hold on to. It's going to make a great letter opener, and even though it's a Tanto profile, kind of crazy, but it might not make a bad steak knife either. But really cool daily utility knife. It's going to be very easy to carry thanks to that pocket-friendly sheath. It's got that deep carry clip on the sheath itself. The handle, of course, sticks up, but everything, essentially everything up to the lip of that sheath is going to stay hidden away in the pocket. So it's going to be very easy to find that and deploy it. It's not a super grabby retention. It's certainly going to hold it nice and secure, but you're not fighting it too much to get out of the pocket. It's going to be very convenient and easy to find its way home. All right, next up we have got a Williams blade design knife. This is the Shobu Zukuri integral flipper, coming in about $275 right now. And yes, this is an aluminum integral knife. You can see here there's no back spacer. The both sides of the scale wrap around each other on the back end here. And this is made by Lion Steel, kind of masters of this manufacturing technique. And they really got it right here as well. Blade shape, 3 3/4 Sleipner steel with that classic non-Western Tanto shape, more original Tanto shape going on in this case, and a pretty symmetrical handle, so it's going to work in both forward and reverse grips almost identically. There on the back, deep carry pocket clip that is reversible, and the frame lock in this case. We'll close that up. You can see another one that has a nice clean profile when it's closed. Comfort in the hand is good. There's a little bit of contouring to this as well, in addition to the milled lines here. Flipping action, not the greatest in the world, but certainly very good. But if you're kind of like addicted to flippers, this might not be the knife for you. But if you like this type of design, CRKT had this at a much more budget-friendly point. It was called the Hitasu. We'll leave a link to that as well. But this is the more premium sibling to that knife, and they pulled a really good job. All right, next up, we're gonna keep it up on the premium side for a little bit. We have got, speaking of integrals, the third generation, the V3 of the Liong Mah KUF KUF kitchen utility folder. It's a little bit smaller than the previous versions, about 3 inches with an LMAX blade. This guy comes in about 360 right now. This one's a little bit less fidgety than the previous versions of the KUF. You don't have the top flipper here. Instead, you have just the finger loop, or the finger thumb cut out there. And it's a little bit trickier to open with just my thumb, but you can, of course, see I have pretty large thumbs. But it's real easy for me to pinch that out. And Thomas was doing the middle finger flick pretty well earlier, and I did it pretty well that time too. I was messing it up earlier. So a little less fidget friendly, but there you go. But I did mention integral construction. This isn't quite integral, but no backspacer again in this case. You've got either G10 or carbon fiber. The G10 is less expensive. That comes in, I want to say about 300. So you can save actually a fair bit of bucks over the carbon fiber version here if you go with G10. But it's a single piece from the front into the backspacer. No separate piece there, and that mates up to the titanium frame lock on the back. As far as size goes, you can kind of think of this as, CRKT has their Overland, which is kind of a similar size to this, and Spyderco has their Spidey Chef, which is kind of a similar size to the KUF V2. So it's nice to see Liong Mah kind of have both of those sizes covered on his kitchen utility folder. There's perhaps a little bit less knuckle clearance than before, but you have enough of a kick up here towards the tip, you're going to be able to pull off some cutting board work quite easily. But it's also going to make just a good daily utility knife. You've got a strong profile here for some heavier cuts, and you can do some pretty decent tip work with that modified sheep's foot as well. Blade steel, did I mention? LMAX, 3 inches, good stuff. All right, next up, hold on to your checkbooks, ladies and germs. We have the latest collaboration between Shirogorov and Reeve knives, and it's got the price tag to reflect that pedigree. This comes in about $2,300 right now. So more expensive than Thomas's truck.
That's more expensive than any of my cars right now.
I don't know how to respond to that, so I'll just keep talking about this knife. It is quite expensive, but it is quite nice too. Blade itself, S90V, about 3 3/8 long, and like all Shirogorovs, just super thin edge behind that full flat grind. This is going to be a very nice slicing knife. As far as the handle, it's got a green carbon fiber type of look. This is called Alutex, and you see that in an inlay there on the back, which is inlaid into the titanium frame lock, but the front is Alutex with a titanium inlay. And in this case, that's where the Reeve collaboration portion comes in. That's, you're familiar with their Sebenza custom computer graphics versions. That's essentially what you're getting with this inlay plate here. You're getting a customized look from the Reeve shop, then installed into this knife. The feel and hand is good. I've always liked the design of this. This is the UniHation, if I didn't mention it already. Can't remember if I did. Frame lock, nice supple action, ball bearings in the pivot, and really crisp on the open. Definitely something that would be a really great spot in your collection, or if you're not afraid to, a really high class EDC. All right, next up, if you want a fancy EDC but you can't afford that much. Maybe you can afford the $975. That's still a very expensive knife that this William Henry costs here. We just got a really nice big new batch of William Henry stuff. This is just one, but it happens to be I think one of my favorite ones out of this current batch. This is the Spearpoint Everyday 1. Really nice blade shape, just over 3 inches. Really nice Damascus profile going on. Handles here are titanium, and it is a carbon fiber inlay, but it doesn't look like carbon fiber. It almost looks like Rapier Noble cut on its end or something. You can see some really cool kind of coppery veins running through this stuff. It's very nice. The button lock release on here has the same kind of dark inlay as the thumb stud. What gem are they using on this one? I'm actually not sure, but it's very nice.
It's pretty.
It's very pretty. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. Really nice detailing around the gemstones too. Really, like, you can see why William Henry often finds their way into being sold in jewelry stores. It's just that nice. Pocket clip, deep carry, and reversible, mounted from the back. One of my favorite ways to mount a pocket clip. Nice slim carry overall. Very fantastic gentleman's knife. Very smooth and very pretty. All right, next up we have a new old Spyderco, essentially. This is a sprint run return of the Phoenix, designed by Howard Viele, coming in about $315 right now. And a very distinctive shape, as you can clearly see. About 3 inches of VG10 steel in this case. The handles themselves, we've got titanium with a red G10 onlay in this case that has a nice shape to it, a little bit of curvature. Just a very distinctive knife around their ball bearing lock that you can see poking through each side of that handle. Now, I find these a little bit trickier to close than something like most crossbar locks out there. I kind of find it best to be a two-hand opening in this case, but it's definitely a very cool shape. Very easy to open, and it has a very kind of conducive shape to harder work if you're gonna kind of take this sprint run to be an actual daily carry. You can either choke back a little bit and get a lot of downward angle to the blade itself, or choke up. Still got a decent bit of downward angle, but easier to control the tip and get there right for some small work, maybe at the heel of the blade for some finer whittling or things like that. Now, in addition to the spider hole there, you've got 3 extra little holes. Not really so much to open it with, but it's definitely a holy Spyderco. That probably amuses me more than any of you, but that's okay. We'll make sure Thomas leaves that in there. It's not really a joke, but I don't care. Yeah, it's it's a cool knife. And of course, being a sprint run, of course, this is going to be going away at some point. And if it ever does come back, it's not going to look exactly like this again. So you definitely got the collectability factor on this guy as well. All right, next up, we've got another new Spyderco. It's a new color variant on the Roadie, coming in $56 right now, and you can get it in this this kind of olive green as well as a more desert tan type of colorway. So definitely more subtle than the other bright colors that still exist in the lineup. So you have a different option there. Blade N690 on this guy, and it's coming in just a hair over 2 inches. This is a slip joint, but decent enough amount of grip to hold on to. It's not a big meaty grip, but it's about 3.5 fingers for my slightly larger than average hands. And being a slip joint, because you've got this choil here, you've got the benefit of safety if it were to kind of start kicking closed on you. At least your finger's there to keep it from closing all the way and potentially cutting yourself. Still has the Spyderco spider hole on this guy, but you're not closing it, or you're not opening it in this case with that hole. Instead, you've got essentially a dish or a divot on each side of that blade to do a pinch with. Very, very easy to open. I don't have any trouble grabbing that whatsoever. As you can see, you got a nice half stop there on the travel, and then snaps into place quite nicely. This is an Italian-made Spyderco, I should mention. They tend to get slip joints pretty right most of the time. They definitely got it here as well. But this would make a really nice small pocket knife. It doesn't take up a heck of a lot of room. It's not quite case peanut small, but it is a very convenient size to stash kind of just about everywhere. And the blade shape itself, not the super sliciest in the world, because it's the thickness they use is it doesn't have quite enough height on the blade here to make a really razor thin profile, but you're gonna be able to pull off some pretty good cuts with it and get a fair amount of tip work out of that as well, thanks to this modified Wharncliffe shape. All right, next up is a Blackfox from Fox Knife. This is the, I'm sure I'm pronouncing this wrong. It's CIOL, it's the Ciol or the Ciol, something like that. Another slip joint knife. This guy coming in about 53 bucks. A bit bigger than that Spyderco. We've got a 2 3/4 inch blade of 440C, and with this recurved blade, they've squeezed even more edge into that length. It's got a really nice shape to it overall, and a really nicely done stone-washed finish in this case. Got a really good amount of texture. The handles here are actually micarta. You got a few different colors. This is a green, but it's a brighter green than I'm used to seeing from a micarta. That's usually, I tend to think of like green micarta as kind of being like green jeans, like green blue jeans. It has kind of a duller look. This one actually has a bit more saturation than I'm familiar with, which is a kind of a nice change of pace. Grip is nice, about a kind of a 3-finger grip for me. Decent amount of feel to it, and it's micarta through and through. There's no liners here. You've just got micarta on each side and that back spacer with some attachment screws. And you can even adjust the pivot on this guy, something you can't really do on classic slip joints. We do have a nice half stop on the travel as well, and a good snap closed. Feels really good to operate without being fingernail breaking whatsoever. Going to be a real nice utility piece. No pocket clip, but it does come with a small leather pocket slip. All right, next up we've got another Boker. Usually I keep brands together, but I've got Boker kind of spread out on this particular video. A new auto for them made by Hogue. This is a Jesper Vaknea's design called the Karakurt, coming in about $150. And all of us down here in the basement dwellers of the Knife Center are pretty much smitten with this knife right now. It's really nicely done, and it has a nice design to it as well. Just over 3 inches, 154 cm steel, nice stonewash finish. It's got some nice sparkle to it, and a real nice and voxy blade shape going on. Handle is aluminum, and you've essentially got 2 nice big slabs on either side. Has a nice rigid feel. I say big slabs, it's not chunky, but it's something to it. It feels nice and solid because you don't have a lot of extra kind of frippery going on the inside. It's just nice and solid. Deep carry pocket clip as well, which is reversible, and push button action. And if there's one thing Hogue gets right, let's be honest, there's a lot of things that Hogue gets right, but they certainly get their push button action right as well. Just a fantastic EDC shape that just happens to be a side opening automatic. Really, really lot to love here on this particular knife. I've got one more auto this week. We just got a huge new batch of Heretic Knives Hydra models, starting much lower in price than this one, but this is kind of one of the top of the range, coming in at $850 for this carbon fiber version. The aluminum, of course, is pretty significantly cheaper. They start under 500 bucks. Actually just a bit over 400 bucks on some of those. So you're going to be paying to get one of these kind of premier edition ones, and you can get it in a Tonto or a drop point at this point. Now this is a single action automatic as opposed to most double actions out there, double action OTFs, and it's got kind of this sliding trapdoor safety on top of the button. And what's interesting about these is you would think that there's no reason to have a single action if you could just have a double action instead. I mostly agree with you, but if you have a double action automatic, you can't do something cool like this. Charging handle, I love it. So it folds up like that. You kind of pull back on the charging handle. Now the blade is under tension, it's ready to go. But appreciate some of the other nice details here. You've got a flamed Damascus, or flamed titanium accents, both on that charging handle, both inside and outside the bar itself. You see that on the push button slider and on the really nice pocket clip there on the back. And then the other thing that a single action automatic can do is have resounding front opening action. Just really, really wickedly fast, nice and strong feeling. And then you've got some nice blade steel here as well. 3.6 some inches long Elmax steel. Really nice file work there on the back, and this two-tone finish. Definitely a cool piece. Speaking of big new batches of things, we've also got a big new batch of Dawson knives, and I pulled just 2 of them here, 2 of the many. We've got a Pequeno here at the bottom, and the price on those is a bit over $200, and a Copper Canyon with a really cool finish coming in about $325 right now. But I'll start with the Pequeno. We've got a blade, a bit over 3 inches, 3V steel, very aggressive recurve on this particular knife. Might be a little hard to sharpen with stones, but something like a rod-based system like the Sharp Maker from Spyderco is going to work very well. And very clearly, I think, intended to be a little bit EDC, but also kind of an EDC tactical option due to the blade angle as it comes down, and of course that nice aggressive recurve, and the lots of traction they've milled in to the G10 handles as well. You can see there's a lot of grooves to give you some extra surface area to make sure you don't lose your grip on this knife. This is another one though I think would make a really good box cutter actually, due to the angle of that blade and that recurve. And kind of push things right into the back edge here if you're angling it just right. Would work pretty well. And then the sheath on this guy, this is actually another pocket fixed blade. As you can see, the Kydex loops around the front here, and that gives you a spot to kind of loop that over the hem of your pocket. So you'll be able to access this very easily without having a sheath around your belt. Now onto the Copper Canyon. This is another one, I think, good outdoors knife, but decent tactical knife. This one may lean a little further away from tactical than the previous knife did, but I'm loving this kind of copperized finish. Their Arizona copper finish is what they call it. It has this kind of splatter look. Kind of mimics like an old rusty friend, but of course it isn't rusty. It just looks awesome. About 4¼ inches long, 3V again in this case. A little bit thinner with that high hollow grind. This is going to be a really nice hunting knife, really nice slicer overall. Still, again, with tons of traction on that G10 handle as well. Has a nice feel. I can fit my hand on there quite comfortably. And the sheath on this guy is over on this side. And this is kind of a little bit of a hybrid construction. You've got Kydex on the back and leather on the front. But it works. Has a different look for sure. I rather like it. And on the back, this leather backer, if you want to call it that, will enable you to carry this either standard up and down on the belt, but you'll also be able to carry it horizontally as well. So a nice, really cool feature baked into this design. Look at that blade finish, man. How cool is that? And last but not least is finally back in stock, the Worksharp Precision Adjust, coming in at just $50. And this system, I think, is a really killer system, especially for the price. I won't actually do it, but you hold your knife in the clamp like so. You can set your exact angle that you want right here and be able to rotate that, get your edge set, and it comes with 3 grits on the spindle here itself. You've got 320 diamond, 600 diamond, and then a fine ceramic for honing. Just it brings a lot of the features that you'd expect to see on some of these really high-end, expensive clamped knife sharpeners with solid bases to a very, very, very cool price point. Like I said, just about $50. The range of angle is good. Officially 15 to 30 per side, but there's a couple of degrees on either side of that. You could even push it to if you want. Definitely check these out. If you want to know more about this, we actually just posted an interview with Worksharp yesterday talking about this very unit, so we'll make sure to leave a link to that, as well as a link to our website down below, where you could get this or any of these other great knives that you saw today. Make sure to let me know your favorites, and while you're over there at the Knife Center, if you're gonna pick one of these knives up, make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program too, because you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next knife if you're buying from us today. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center signing off. See you next time.